General Assembly of the Tennessee YMCA Youth and Government will now come to order for the purpose of attending a joint session. Will the schools present please sound off so that your attendance may be noted?
Hi, this is Clarksville Academy from Clarksville, Tennessee, checking into the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
The Collegiate School of Memphis,
Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
Ryan of Nashville, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
Green Hill High School of Mount Juliet, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
Hey everyone.
Hillwood High School of Nashville, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
Lebanon High School of Lebanon, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
Mount Juliet High School of Mount Juliet, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
Smyrna High School of Smyrna, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference. Woo!
White Station High School of Memphis, Tennessee is present for the 68th Annual Youth and Government Conference.
The joint session attendees have been noted. I hereby declare the joint sessions of the 68th Annual Tennessee YMCA Youth and Government Conference now in session. We will now pause for reading the Star Spangled Banner by this year's unopposed candidates.
Oh, say, can you see?
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 Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
And the rockets' red glare.
And the rockets' red glare.
The bombs bursting in air.
The bombs bursting in air.
Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.
That our flag was still there.
That our flag was still there.
Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
And the home of the brave.
And the home of the brave.
Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Tennessee's Governor, Bill Lee, for a brief welcome message.
Hey everybody, Governor Bill Lee here. Welcome to the 2021 YMCA Youth and Government Conference. Thank you for your dedication to civic engagement. It's incredible to see your passion for learning about and participating in government. As you gather together virtually, I hope that you find inspiration as you listen to your peers, participate in debates, and interact with others who care about making Tennessee the best state it can be. I trust you'll use this experience to become responsible and engaged citizens in your communities, and I know that you will make our state proud.
Hi there. My name is Kenneth Russell DeGraff, and 22 years ago I was sitting where you are right now, not inside your laptop, but in the Tennessee House Chamber in Nashville, as a delegate at the YMCA Youth and Government Capital Conference. Picture it, you're there with me right now too. Think about the wooden desks built for two people. You see the microphones on top and the 4 voting buttons. Green for yes, red for no, blue for present 'cause sure, and that yellow page button that doesn't bring you coffee. And then me in the dais, supposedly in front of you. But for the obvious coronavirus crisis, I'd be there with you right now. But in my day job, I'm a senior policy advisor for Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. Till a couple of weeks ago, she was the highest ranking woman in American history. And I have the privilege of advising her on energy, environment, climate, technology, internet issues, and more. And 22 years ago, I didn't think I belonged in your chair. I grew up in Antioch and I went to MLK in Nashville. Before he moved to Brentwood, Mr. Adams was my advisor. And I hope you're watching this, Mr. Adams. I miss you and I'm glad you're feeling better. But senior year, he was cheering me on as I was in the governor's cabinet as the director of finance. My proposal was pretty controversial. Earlier that year, the real Tennessee governor, Don Sundquist, a Republican, proposed a provocative new idea for how Tennessee should raise revenue. Years before, I had knocked doors for different candidates, but I read the proposal with an open mind. Even though it raised more money for education, a big issue at the time, most Tennesseans would have saved money overall, especially the poor. So I took Governor Sundquist's proposal with me to the Capitol Conference. That first day, my YMCA governor picked up the proposal and the cabinet started asking tough questions. I did my best, but the governor, a proud conservative then and now, was pretty skeptical. Debated, voted, shot down. 15 minutes tops. I was devastated. I already felt insecure. I literally didn't know if I was going to have enough money for lunch and dinner. And besides, I was openly gay in high school, but I was basically back in the closet at the Capitol Conference. Over the next day and a half, we discussed everyone's proposals, and it dawned on me and others that we would have to make hard choices. Otherwise, no one's ideas, conservative or liberal, even the governor's, were going to get adopted. Others in the cabinet asked the governor if we could revise and reconsider my proposal. I had a second chance. So I put together something that would pay for solutions to the consensus problems and still have money left over for a rainy day. A little more back and forth, and that budget got the cabinet support, the governor's endorsement, and was overwhelmingly approved by the entire conference. Later, I actually testified at a hearing in the Tennessee legislature on a real governor's bill. It never became law, but it was an early experience that I could step out and make change. So did I learn anything when I was in your chair at the desk with the microphone and the 4 voting buttons? Well, it was practical experience that I took with me when I went to college and became an organizer for almost everything I cared about, and stayed with me when I moved to DC to work as a consumer advocate, where I did a lot of things, including helping give you the right to keep your phone number when you changed phone companies. It was a path that I couldn't have taken without a federal scholarship for public service. So when I had the chance to work on Capitol Hill, I brought with me how to keep an open mind, how to bring the right people together to solve problems. And those are things that I've learned and have been doing to help the speaker make decisions for the last 10 years. That is up until January 6th, the insurrection. I had an hours-long drive to DC and a morning full of meetings on the phone, which wrapped just as protesters were gathering at the Capitol steps. Once they got into the building, which was unthinkable, I kept waiting to hear that the president, the Pentagon, someone had called in the National Guard. If DC were a state, it could have made the call on its own, but instead, if you saw the impeachment trial the first day, you saw what happened. You saw my coworkers, my friends, diving into a conference room with mere minutes to spare, the mob yelling about killing my boss. They ransacked and pillaged our office. They quickly broke through the first door of protection, trying to break through the second door where my friends hid behind a table they flipped over, which one of them learned in school shooting drills. Voices in the hallway yelling for blood, trying to break through that door. Thank God for that second door. Thousands of people work in Congress, staffers like me, young and old, operations staff, press, police, and more, but it's a speck in the federal government. The Hill's like a family, and most of us are affected by the insurrection in different, personal, powerful, painful ways. It hurts knowing that some in the family aided and abetted an insurrection. I have unspeakable anger towards those who played any role, but especially those who had taken the oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and then watched and did nothing as the Capitol was sacked for the first time since the War of 1812. My friends working in the office that day were there to fulfill Congress's constitutional obligations to count the states' electoral votes. I don't know how they shook off the trauma and finished their work around 3 a.m. For many, even me, the trauma from the insurrection still lingers. But this is about you. So think about where you are right now, in the House chamber in Nashville, made of the same Tennessee marble and limestone that I used to see when I would walk through the U.S. Capitol. In Tennessee, your Capitol's wrought iron ceiling was unprecedented. To make it, the local iron industry had to make big investments. But those investments paid off and made Tennessee a national leader. We can do that again and create millions of jobs and recover from the coronavirus crisis by building back better for the long term, for the future. Just like solving the climate crisis. Even the fossil fuel industry figured out the science decades ago. The only real question are how expensive are the problems that pollution causes? How much we'll save by solving it faster before the cost of inaction spirals it out of control? How best to help those who live in pollution, and how best to help those in industries that are going to change no matter what government does, because the market's always changing. You either make the future you want to live in, or you watch it blow you away. Doesn't everyone in the country deserve the opportunity to make their own future? We got started in a small way last year. In December, I helped Speaker Pelosi pass an enormous bill under a procedure that basically required House and Senate Democrats and Republicans to come together on what we could all agree on. Bipartisan, bicameral, signed by President Trump. It's among the highlights of my career. That big bill was made of hundreds of smaller bills, each with their own story, supporters, and impact. One environmental group has called it, put together perhaps the most significant climate legislation Congress has ever passed. And a different part of that bill I worked on created a new program to help kids and families afford high-speed internet. It's a lot like what we did in the governor's cabinet that year. Find what unites us, keep trying for more. Never stop trying for more. There's so many problems right now, but thankfully the microphone and the voting buttons are in front of you now. You're in the chair at the desk because you know that this place around you, the legislature, our democratic republic, is how we make the world better for those around us. Not just for the weekend, but for the rest of your life. Now it's your turn to talk about the problems you see affecting people in your life and to listen to others. It's your opportunity to work together to find solutions. Your chance to care less about what party anyone is in and more about the Constitution we serve. There's a lot of people on this call, and where there are people, there is power. My hope this weekend is that you know your power and you use it to make the country better for everyone. Not just this weekend, but in the years to come. Thank you and have a great conference. I'll see you soon. Bye now.
Seeing that the business of this joint session has been concluded, it is in order that we adjourn.
The joint session will stand in adjournment, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The State of the State is going to be held live at 12:30. Look for the link on your app, or just join your House and Senate or component session, and you'll be redirected to the live State of the State. See you all in just a minute.